All right, so we're on air. This is another weekly office hours. Unfortunately, Nate is out of town today, so he can't join us. But hopefully, we can have a fun discussion about Derby and Share and anything else you guys want to. So just real quick before we jump into any discussion, I do want to make some announcements. So I've been working on the documentation. So if you go to DerbyJS.com/docs, just a link in the chat, there's new, or kind of the old but slightly improved documentation around the app and the routes in Derby. And then there's also a new section around components, which will help people kind of understand the mechanics of components, hopefully, in Derby. Also, Nate last week did a lot of work on the internals of Share.js and LiveDB to clean up some memory leaks around subscriptions, also to make subscriptions less memory intensive. They were keeping a lot of stuff around in memory that wasn't strictly necessary, so we're kind of trimming the fat. We have thousands of concurrent users, subscribing to tens of thousands of documents, and all the time, day and night. So having having wasteful subscriptions was starting to become a problem, especially as we added more users. All right, so that's all I have for announcements. I don't know if anyone else has any, or we can just jump into any questions or general discussion. All right, so let's just go into discussion. So Federico and Gineth, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your names right, sorry. You said you're here to talk about Share. What are you interested in?
Yeah, so basically we've been hacking for a couple of days on Share.js, and what we're trying to build is kind of, something like a real-time wiki where we can edit Markdown documents real-time, and then with that kind of create a website, or where we can put documentation and then be able to publish it and then edit it on real time. Right?
Great.
So that's what we're trying to do, kind of as a open source project, in our free time. we have we spend a couple of hours, 3 or 4 hours a week, just to research on stuff that we want, build something, and that's how we got into this project.
Cool. Well, I think Share.js is pretty well suited for that use case. You can represent the Markdown as text and have it be collaboratively edited. And just listen to events on changes and recompile the Markdown. I don't know if there might be an example of Share.js with Markdown that Joseph, the author of Share.js, made, which I can try to find. But we definitely, so Derby, just so you know, is built on top of Share.js. Share.js does more than just text collaboration. You can actually do operational transform to real-time manipulation on arbitrary JSON data. So beyond strings, you can actually sync and collaborate on any field of a JSON object. So Derby's model, everything is driven by the model with it, which is JSON data basically, is all synced via Share.js. And we actually have some components for like a code mirror editor or a Markdown. So then you can edit Markdown in code mirror, and then I think I have that in the Derby examples. Find a link for that. But yeah, so I think it's definitely possible. It's being done.
Examples. There's a chat, to do sync, and hello.
I just put the link to the Derby example, which uses it's a demo of CodeMirror, but it also uses Showdown which is a open source Markdown JavaScript library. So the demo you edit Markdown and it renders with Showdown in this demo. And let's see.
Okay. So what does the code mirror does? A module does?
Oh, CodeMirror is like a text. It's like a code editor for the browser. All right. So this was. All right, let me see. I'll send the link. CodeMirror.net.
Oh, okay, okay. It's like ACE.
Yeah, it's like Ace, but I prefer it a lot. It's a bit leaner, and I like the API. And when I tried Ace a few years ago, I compared the two, and Ace was doing some weird things, like putting globals into the global namespace, and yeah, so it's probably personal opinion. Also, here is an example of ShareJS used to directly put in the chat, manipulate some like JSON to make an app. Did not use Markdown like I thought, but I'm pretty sure. Anyway, yeah, I might have to ask him, but I'm not aware of an explicit Markdown example with ShareJS, but it's Markdown is essentially just text, so you should be able to use it for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean to hook it up to a text area and then share it as text.
Yep.
Yeah, what we're right now kind of trying to figure out if it makes sense to use the 0.6 version or the 0.7 because we found some different APIs on both, right?
Yeah.
So we've been through the examples, and I noticed that the connect, for instance, one of the examples, the connect version that we're using were it's old. So we fixed it and we sent a pull request for that, right? And we'll make it run with the latest version of Connect. And then I noticed that the tutorials are from 0.6, but then there's a lot of code that is being written on 0.7, right? So.
Yeah, 0.7 is definitely what will be supported. Joseph's still actually working on 0.8. And yeah, so yeah, there is a lot more examples for 0.6, but definitely 0.7 is what we're using in production, and where we're fixing bugs and stuff like that. It was a pretty big rewrite from 0.6. It's also much more scalable. We rewrote it to use LiveDB, and yeah, generally I would definitely recommend 0.7.
Okay. Then we can continue working on that 0.7.
Cool.
Yeah, I noticed that for 0.6 there was attach ace method that is not there on Open7 anymore. So I guess that was part of the experiments that you were mentioning before, right?
Let's see. So attach ace was like for the ace thing, ace editor.
Well, I've seen it on the tutorials actually.
Right. So there is also an example of share and code mirror, which should be conceptually very similar to the ACE. And in this case, like basically you just listen on the events from the text editor and generate the the way this plugin works has attached code mirror. Is that you pass in your editor, you listen on the events, and you generate the proper share.js operations to propagate. And when you get share.js operations, you modify the text in the editor. So porting that to ACE should be pretty straightforward.
I can try to make to run this code mirror example and place it there.
Yeah, should work hopefully.
Yeah, kind of the since each document has infinite versions, right? Each of these small changes. What we're thinking is kind of be able to set what revision is one that we want to publish. So you can edit whatever page you want, and then eventually you click publish or whatever, and that updates the public wiki.
Mm-hmm.
Or the view part of the wiki.
I see.
Kind of to duplicate what's going on real wikis, right? That you actually have a cycle of editing and publishing, right?
Right. So that's definitely something you can do. One way, because share.js, like everything is done through operations. You can kind of save up the operations as you So if you take something like the share code mirror thing, and you do a bunch of operations, someone's typing, they're generating all these operations, and in this plugin, it applies them immediately to share. You could sort of save those up and then send them out, right, all at once instead of sending them immediately. Though what you kind of want is, I think, like a local share.js client that can kind of accept operations from outside as well, apply those, resolve them, right, so that you stay in sync. So actually, I'm a little bit more familiar with Racer, and we do stuff like this for sure there. So let me send you a link to Racer too. Racer is the model layer of Derby, and it's like a light API wrapper on top of share.js. So instead of doing directly creating the operations, you interact with this model object. So you model.set, model.get, so let's see. The link, the description, Racer's documentation is part of Derby's docs here, so I just linked there. That's how models work. And with Racer, it's really easy to do like a local. You can sort of subscribe to a document and get its changes and get its, and change it and publish that out. But you can also have a local path where you're you could copy the document into your local editing thing, edit it locally, listen on any changes to your subscribed document, and then update your local one as that happens. And that's sort of, so that's like your play area, right? And then once you're ready to hit publish, when you set your changes to the subscribed document, like any conflicts will have already been resolved. So that's kind of the pattern I see, just thinking off the top of my head. I'm not quite clear how to do it with the share API, but I'm sure it's possible.
Right. Yeah. Something interesting. One of the ideas that are appealing is about being able to have the information offline and be able to edit it offline as well.
Right.
At this point is that part is very immature in general. We really don't have too much tools to do that, and it's an interesting problem to solve.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying about getting into the Derby models and the Racer. Right now they're different components, right? Or are they wrapped together?
They are different node modules. So Racer includes share, and that's how it synchronizes. So it's like a light API on top of share, basically, just kind of a more common API. It's very similar to Backbone.js in the way that you interact with it, right? Which is a little more user-friendly when you're trying to do arbitrary JSON manipulation, rather than figuring out, oh, this is like the seg paths and like where I'm inserting and deleting. This is just really for convenience. But then it has a few other things to that it kind of abstracts for you, I guess. Yeah. But there's also, there's Racer examples. Let me get that to. Yeah, so this actually, it has a text editing and a JSON editing example. You can kind of see that there.
I see. Yeah, it's pretty much similar to the examples of Share.js, but with Racer.
Right, yeah, with its API, basically.
Right. That's interesting. Actually, I think it will make sense to. We were using Angular, but it might make sense to move to Derby instead, because it's integration on models and the real-time API.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing about using Derby with Racer is that the templates are just really simple, pretty much handlebars style, double curlies to bind things, and you just pull it out of your model. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we have a lot of code to check out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're here every week, so come back next week with more questions after playing. We'll be here. And, of course, there's the Derby and this people discuss them.
Great, thank you.
Right.
We will check all the examples and the modules, and we will see where they go.
And like I said, I'm actively working on the documentation, so it actually really helped me if you see things where it's particularly confusing or you're wondering, how something works, send me an email or send one to the list or something, and I can use that to make the docs better.
Great. We will let you know.
Cool. Thanks.
There is any way we can collaborate, either on Share or Derby or I don't know. or how can we help on that part, contribute somehow?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, as as you learn it, yeah. Like I think right now, one of our biggest weaknesses is the documentation and the exam. Like I personally think we need more examples as well. As I finish out this sort of API reference, I'm gonna start doing like a tutorial and a guide. But it's really helpful to point people to small examples of like how to do this or how to do that. I think in terms of the framework itself, it is composed of many smaller node modules. It can take a little bit to understand which part does what. I'm going to try to write that up as well. I do have let me see, a list of those that I'll be pointing to. So if you're interested in, here, I'll put this. That's a list of all the modules that make up Derby. So there's always room for improvement with difficulties, and we have there are a good bit of issues and pull requests open, and we're trying to address those more these days. Any help there will be appreciated, of course. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and we read that. We'll stay in touch.
Good. Good. DJ, or Carl, did you have any questions or things you want to discuss today? Well, if we don't have any further discussion topics, I'd like to get back to working on the documentation.
Okay, awesome.
Great.
Cool. All right, well, thanks everyone for stopping by. Looking forward to hearing how it goes with your explorations.
Awesome. Thank you for the information, and hope to see you next week.
Yep, see you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.